Chris, do you think that I'm correct when I say that everyone around here a little bit hides their sports hurt because they don't want America to drink up their tears? So there's a stoicism involved with everyone here when there is hurting. And I noticed it on the way in, oddly enough. It wasn't even about the Panthers this weekend. When I pulled in, Stugotz waddled out from behind one of the parking garage pillars.
Yep.
And, you know, he's
confirmed
covered in cigarette smoke, and
I waddled.
Makes me a little bit sad when I see it in the morning because he doesn't have.
Smile this morning.
I did smile, but I was laughing at how sad it was that you continue to smoke in a parking garage instead of going and doing it somewhere where there's sunshine.
Yeah.
But what I saw on you, I think, hiding behind the stoicism was heartbreak. But I'm not totally positive because you guys do such a good job of concealing when you're hurting. I saw that your daughter's team was up 5 or 6-0.
They were up 6-0, yeah.
And thought they were going to win easily another championship at Northwestern. And then next thing I know, Boston College has won the lacrosse national championship by a goal.
Second time in, I think, 3 or 4 years, BC has won. 6-0 is not a big lead in that sport, especially in the first quarter. But I am hurting today. Like, that hurt. To see my daughter emotional after the game, to see her crying after the game. And really, you know, because I've gotten to know her teammates and those families very, very well, that's a terrible way for this season and some of their careers to end. So, yeah, I'm hurting today. I don't care. I'll tell you. I'm hurting today. I'm hurting for them. Yep.
If you make the Final Four every year, is it that painful when you lose? I mean, jeez.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I cry all the time, so I really don't know what you're talking about. I have cried so many times on camera from both happiness and a lot from sadness, too. So I'm not hiding anything.
I would agree that you are less concealed than most, but I think Stugotz greeted me today by telling me today's the day we find out whether Roy's actually concerned or not, because
he's
always hiding.
Yes.
I can answer that question right now. No.
What?
I'm not.
Come on, Roy.
If I can speak for the other end of that spectrum, I've been shitting myself every 3 hours for 2 days.
I can't remember in my entire history covering sports in this market a non-season ending game that felt as bad as what just happened to the Panthers. It's not that you lost the second time in overtime in as many games.
Derek White in the Eastern Conference Finals last year to send it to a Game 7.
That's a good one.
Because I got to tell you, in my mind, fairly recent example, far outweighs what I felt in Game 3 of Panthers-Rangers.
It's a good one, but the reason I want to talk about this is because usually these things are reserved for Game 6 and Game 7. The thing that I was going to say as the qualifier is I've never felt that way that early in a series about anything. Game 3, you don't remember any Game 3s in the history of Game 3s. None of you do. You don't remember any of them.
I love that as a trick.
It's a great trick.
Remember a Game 3, I dare you, and then move on, like while my head's still spinning trying to find a Game 3.
Because I'm certain over the 20 years of us doing this show, Mike, we have spoken about a big Game 3. Positive. I just can't remember it today.
There was a Kyle Lowry full court buzzer beater to force a Raptors Heat series into overtime. And if that's a Game 3, that's your winner.
I have a hard time coming up with one early in a series that felt like that one, because it's not just that you lose in overtime. You completely dominated the game. Like to have that kind of shot advantage in a game hadn't been seen in how many years in that sport in the playoffs, where you don't lose that game. A team with that kind of shot advantage never loses that game. Let's start the show so I can get to my top 5 most heartbreaking things South Florida has felt.
Whoa.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat from the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the let out the sheets. You can't go out, man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. My girls, let her tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I meant to address this a couple of weeks ago when Ken Rosenthal, voice for baseball, said that everyone in baseball was talking about how something finally had to be done about Angel Hernandez. When Ken Rosenthal stakes his voice and bow tie as the voice of baseball on running someone out of the sport, it then happened soon thereafter. So congratulations to all Hispanics who have known that Angel Hernandez has been a blight upon our people with his general incompetence for 30 years umpiring baseball games. But it appears that they finally settled. They negotiated with Angel Hernandez in one of the most powerful unions in the history of unions, not just sports. And they said, Angel, not one more game this season. You are retiring right now. You are announcing your retirement. We're not even going to go anymore. It's going to be in the middle of the season. It's not even going to have any explanation for why it is right now. You're not getting worse. You've always been the worst. And now we're deciding you have to retire in a settlement. I can't imagine how much money that man got.
We're going to miss that man. I'm telling you right now. It's hard to see it today, but I'm telling you next year, a couple of years down the road, we are going to miss Angel Hernandez on this show. We're going to miss talking about Angel Hernandez. We are.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Are we going to miss Angel Hernandez terribly? And also put on the poll, do you want to celebrate profound incompetence?
Yes.
Because I was like Draymond Green with Rudy Gobert. Draymond Green is really celebrating because Jerkic and Gobert are going to get swept, and he's just making the rounds hating everywhere. He is America's foremost hater right now. Put up the clip for us, please, of him reacting to what is happening in that Minnesota and Dallas series where everyone is watching the defensive player of the year, 4-time defensive player of the year, get hunted and get picked on, Stugotz, in a way that creates great merriment and joy throughout the sport because it would appear that everyone hates Gobert. And I got to think, right? I don't know enough about what has been happening in previous years versus this year as to how it is that Gobert gets played off the court, but he's not getting played off the court. They're just hunting the defensive player of the year, which I don't have any precedent for. So he's not getting played off the court, but they're losing because he's out there and he needs to not be out there. Did you guys see the face on McDaniels when they went to the switch on defense, the slow motion face when he just went, oh no, because he realized it was Luka on Gobert. And even Jamal Crawford is telling you before it happens, this is going to be a step back three right in Gobert's face because Gobert hasn't been able to cover Luka Doncic on any continent that they've played on.
Isn't Anthony Edwards totally skating on this?
Yes.
I mean, he was pounding his chest about what he did in the previous series to Jamal Murray. I'm out there. I'm a lockdown defender. And the fact that they have to turn to, and granted they're hunting him to a very large degree, but the fact that these highlights don't have Anthony Edwards draped all over Luka Doncic makes me realize that was a lot of talk there, bruv.
Well, he did say he wanted Kyrie in the last series.
Well, and Stephen A. right now is saying on ESPN on the televisions in here that Anthony Edwards is the reason they're losing that series because he's not guarding Kyrie. But to me, the funny thing about Game 3 is Anthony Edwards is in the tunnel getting an oxygen while Luka's smoking a cigarette running up and down the court. Put it on the poll, please. Are you sure Luka's in shape?
I don't know what to do with Luka because he's one of those guys. They said earlier he was injured. I don't know if he's injured because he always looks injured. And so I have no idea what to do with Luka Doncic. It's convenient now that people aren't talking about the injury because they're up 3-0. He's playing so well. But he is one of those guys, Dan, and he annoys me because I have no idea. There is no way of knowing, not even doctors know, whether or not Luka is hurt. He always looks hurt. He does.
I saw a Lucas Stan account tweet out that nobody is holding opposing players to a better field goal percentage from the field. And then I dug deeper and I saw minimum 200 field goal attempts. Like, what great defender has that many? And this was like around game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. I don't think any other defender had 200 attempts on them in this postseason. But yeah, Luka's a really strange case study. And even when he was a little bit younger, coming out of Real Madrid and in better shape, he still looked out of shape by comparison. I think it's why he didn't go number 1.
One of the things that I'm going to enjoy so much about these finals, Stugotz, because Dallas is as improbable a team as has ever arrived in this position. But if I could get the great good fortune of the greatest Boston team I've seen this century, I'm including their champion in there, playing not only against Kyrie Irving, but the white guy they've been dying to have throughout eternity in Boston, to have those two players.
Well, they had him.
Those two well, they had Kyrie, and then Kyrie saged the place and stepped on the leprechaun. I was talking to you guys before the show, and I was asking about like where the Mavericks would rank on improbable champions, Stugotz, because I did not have this being possible. Even seeing after the trade deadline that they were, one of the best defenses in the sport. This is a giant surprise to me. I am not used to giant surprises in this sport. For all the people who were talking all year about who can win the championship, I heard precious little talk about Dallas. 5 seeds don't win the championship. You don't have a team that wins just 50 games winning the championship.
You had a 6 seed and the Rockets do it in, I think, 93, 94. So a 6 seed got to the NBA Finals. 8 seeds have been to the NBA Finals. You know, the Heat did it last year, right?
No, not getting there. Not
but
getting
winning
there.
the entire thing.
Winning
right,
it.
yes.
The Rockets
Wasn't a lot of precedent for getting there. The only precedent for getting there as an 8 seed was
Right.
a lockout shortened Knicks team that was hurt all year and wasn't a true 8.
Right.
So you say, Dan, that you're not used to seeing it in this sport. I'd say the last 6 years says get used to it, because the last 6 years in NBA history seems like a huge historical outlier.
It has changed. The sport has changed because of all the offense, but 5 seeds are still not champions very often. And you just mentioned the Rockets as a 6 seed. Those Rockets were the defending champion. They coasted through the following season. They had Hakeem Olajuwon. It was 93, 94, 94, 95.
It was the 2 years Jordan took off.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was
But
So they don't count.
They got there and won it with a championship pedigree. It would have been more shocking if it was year 1 because you'd already seen that nucleus do it. But I would say, yeah, like just comb through the teams that have made the finals and have won the finals in the last 6 years. The fact that we're not really getting any repeat appearances, the fact that dynasties are dying shortly thereafter, or presumed dynasties are dying shortly thereafter. It's a crazy time. I can't really wrap my head around it. You just got to take every season as a new thing. Can't carry over.
We had the last 5 seasons, each of the last 5 seasons, there's been a 3 or lower in the finals in basketball. And it is, at least in part, because of how everything has changed in that sport with 3-pointers and offense and the way that the game is played.
I posed that I love the take. We were doing a little cable TV thing. I'm like, I don't even think it's the most shocking Dallas Mavericks champion of all time. But looking back, the series against the Miami Heat in 2011, where J.J. Barea was put on LeBron and he refused to back him down, the Mavericks entered that series at plus 160. I think it's tough to find a line on that right now. You have the line with 3 teams. Keep in mind the Mavericks haven't actually advanced just yet, but I think it'll settle in somewhere around plus 160 for Dallas.
Do any of you listening to this have a comp for what Luka is? Because Paul Pierce's game often confused me, but Stan Van Gundy is saying that this is the best offensive backcourt ever and that Luka is the best offensive player that there has been in the history of the sport. And I am confounded. I understand that after the game, when he's shaking hands with Travis Kelce, you realize he's bigger than Travis Kelce. And just because he's out there with giants, you can forget that this is a 6'7", thick, strong person who is handling the entirety of the game. But the fact that I can't tell you for sure whether he's in prime shape or not, and Stugotz can't tell you for sure whether he's hurt or not.
No idea, yeah.
I thought after seeing their first game against the Clippers, I'm like, Luka's not going to last these playoffs. Like, he's just not going to be healthy enough. And then all of the other teams break down. The Celtics, I believe, the Celtics have had, 8 of their 12 victories have come against teams that don't have their number one player.
That's right.
And Luka is going through a buzzsaw in the West. Like every team in the top 4 out West, I thought could have won the championship. The one in the top 5 that I didn't have winning the championship was Dallas. Because I didn't have them getting past a healthy Clippers team.
You fell for the Thunder? I mean,
I did, yes.
You did, all right.
And furthermore, can you guys get me that sound from a couple of weeks ago, please, of Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards laughing about the idea that a reporter asked them, hey, you guys haven't suffered enough in the postseason. You haven't done enough losing. And their reaction was to laugh at him and say, what do you mean? We've done plenty of losing. No, this is what losing and suffering feels like. Not losing in the first round. Historically in this sport, what's happening to them this year, where you go from Anthony Edwards being celebrated for 2 rounds to spending an offseason with, hey, what happened? And we were ready to anoint you. And instead, Luka came and took your league. Took your league from you. Kyrie and Luka took your moment from you.
I was not ready to anoint him. Anyone who anointed him should be ashamed of themselves. But, Dan, the Celtics are going through it. That's what we're talking about. That's going deep into the playoffs and not getting it done. And that's what the Celtics are going through and have been going through for the last 8 years now. They've been to the Eastern Conference Finals 6 of the last 8 years. They've been to the NBA Finals. They haven't gotten it done. That's losing. That's going through some pain before you actually hold up the Larry O'Brien.
I've heard a lot of people compare Luka to Patrick Mahomes. That seems like an in vogue comparison. I'm going to go to soccer and Diego Maradona because his body didn't make sense for how good he was on the pitch, but he had this motor that wouldn't stop, and no one could figure out why that was.
A lot of first basemen on these Luka comps.
Yeah, I agree.
Prince Fielder.
Yep, John Kruk.
I'm talking about basketball where athleticism is obviously required. And clearly,
is it? I mean,
Stugotz, clearly, this is an enormously athletic person.
I mean, it was Jokic last year. I mean, Luka this year. I mean, athleticism, really?
It's overrated. I mean, part of the athleticism is also conserving your energy, especially when you're not of the best wind.
Right.
Like Luka is. He's got a special quality where he can, it's almost as if he's been out of shape his entire life, so he knows how to win within those margins. And he knows just enough amount of exertion to get a look at the cup.
I'm going to say this again so that you understand what's happening here. In the fourth quarter of the last game, as the Timberwolves are benching Karl Anthony Towns, and everyone's wondering, hey, do you need to bench the Defensive Player of the Year too? 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter in a series that Minnesota has had the lead in every fourth quarter. Anthony Edwards is in the tunnel getting oxygen because of how Kyrie and Luka are beating you down. They're beating you down on what's happening at the end of games, the things that we said before this postseason started, where OKC and Minnesota can't win, not just because they haven't suffered, because young teams don't win like that. They don't win at the end of games. They do knucklehead shit. They've got to learn how to do that. So, Stugotz, this is Karl Anthony Towns during better times and Anthony Edwards telling us, what do you mean we've got to suffer and lose in the playoffs in order to get to the finals? We've lost. We keep losing in the first round. How much losing do you want us to do?
And usually in NBA history, it says you have to lose and lose big before you win. What is it about this team that says
We lost last year.
Yeah, but that's different. You have to lose at a bigger stage. Usually, teams usually.
It's the playoffs. We lost last year.
We lost the last 2 years. Shit.
God damn. How much more we got to lose?
How much you want us to lose?
We're losing for 20 years.
I mean, that's just the truth, dog.
God damn.
I think he gets it now.
Yeah, how much more you got to lose? One more game.
One more.
One more.
One more series, generally, historically speaking.
The reporter wins. I mean, he has to feel vindicated today. No,
Vince Goodwill is the reporter.
Vince.
The idea that Luka is wearing them down with his wind and his athleticism and just his general frustrating, because what the hell are you supposed to do? You can have everything lined up for the two players that they have in their backcourt, and it doesn't matter at all. And they are swamping. Anthony Edwards has the dunk of the year, the play of the year. In this series, he had the dunk of the playoffs, where you're like,
congratulations to him.
He was already a star entering this year, but he's a breakout superstar from the season and the way that the postseason shook out. And Luka just stays even. Because he's always this confusing guy that finds a way to get buckets or make plays, and you can't. And you're left scratching your head. And we struggled last year and the last couple of years with Jokic, but we at least can see, like, okay, he can move inside too. He can get the easy buckets. There's no real hole in his game because if he goes to the line, he'll do it. It's really weird to see it constantly on the perimeter, and you have like some of the game's most athletic, best defenders try to take their shot at cracking this code, and no one really can.
There are a couple of things that I find super interesting about this, Stugotz. A, Minnesota shut down a Denver team offensively that I did not think could be shut down by anybody, and it doesn't matter when you face this backcourt. And then the other thing that's happening in this series, and this is something that was camouflaged over the first two rounds. You guys didn't trust Karl Anthony Towns. You didn't. And now you know why. Mm-hmm. This is one of the worst shooting performances I've ever seen, and it is statistically one of the worst that there's ever been. What he's shooting from three is what's getting him benched. His coach is saying it's hard to watch, that it's hard to watch my second best player run around out there, and he knows he's not going to make anything. Is he 4 for 32 from three? I think he is something from three that is the worst there's ever been on that many shot attempts from three. Usually in the postseason, people will stop shooting if they're shooting as poorly as Karl Anthony Towns is shooting. Because
he is 3 of 22.
Okay, so I'm going back 5 games. This is the worst 5-game stretch we've ever seen from a three-point shooter in the postseason in this league. Is 4 for 32 because we're going back a ways. And so the Timberwolves won anyway. They beat Denver anyway with him playing that way. But
what a bizarre roster construction for the Dallas Mavericks.
Yes.
They're dying to get this Hardaway contract off their books. They are. Like they can set themselves up nicely. I know it's not sexy, but they have some bigs that can appear to be really versatile defenders and are huge into their success. And I always have to Google what their names are.
The most impressive part about the Mavericks is that they had Luka Doncic and they completely revamped their roster around him in the last year and a half. They made the trade for Kyrie at the deadline in 2023,
yes.
And since then they've added Gafford and Washington at this last deadline. They added Derrick Jones Jr. in free agency. I think it's their second.
I can hear your Heat homerism through this. This is what the Heat should do for Jimmy.
No,
come on. That is kind of what you're.
He was getting somewhere good, man. That wasn't.
I let him
fair.
cook. I didn't go in too early. I'm saying
he was about to
No,
get
you
to.
pulled that pot out the stove too early.
You couldn't. You
Stop
couldn't.
cooking.
Where is he going with Derrick Jones Jr.? I was curious.
Didn't hear the
Food is still raw.
I'm the only one that heard the Heat analysis there.
Once
just said Derrick Jones Jr.
He said, "Did you see that they took a star and they put a bunch of things around him to improve
what
the
I
roster?"
saw is that he had started to cook. He had put a few things out. He had tenderized a little bit the chicken. He had marinated a little bit, and then you took all the ingredients off the table.
No, I let him
before.
go.
You didn't. He was not allowed to cook. Lucy, was he allowed to cook? Did you feel like Jeremy was allowed to cook?
No,
there?
please just let Jeremy be, okay? Just let him live his life. If he wants to sneak a little Heat stuff in there, I felt like I didn't pick
Lucy
up on
heard
it at all.
Come on, Lucy.
No, I didn't.
Lucy, you heard it.
Chris, don't do this to me. I'm bad in confrontation. My parents are divorced. I can't pick again.
You mentioned the Mavericks roster construction. Luka's up for 5 years, $346 million, and Kyrie's going to be up for 4 years, $243 million. So they're about to give $600 million to both of those guys over the next 4 years.
Can you believe we're here with Kyrie?
No.
Where it's, okay, well, we got to get him his money. We got to pay Kyrie. This was never the thought. This is a contract that's changed hands several times over.
I have seen many times over the years. Allen Iverson was the one that I remember most clearly, where we were just crushing him, and then he made it to the finals, and we're like, did Allen change? And it's like, no. Not really.
He's just winning.
He's just winning now. And when you start winning, we will change the way that we talk about you. And all of that said, Kyrie Irving has been maximum professional for them since he got there. He was humbled by everything that happened there. And this is the most circuitous route he could have possibly taken to, I'll show you what I can do when I break free of LeBron James. He took the route that was all over the place and got to the place in the most unconventional of ways, because all of us would have had it happening in Boston and Brooklyn before it happened in Dallas.
Yeah, but are we forgetting it didn't happen in Boston and it didn't happen in Brooklyn? Like, the best Boston team was the team where Kyrie got hurt. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Then he decided with Kevin Durant to go to the Brooklyn Nets, and it was so bad. They made such a mockery of the entire situation that he was shipped off to Dallas.
But all of this gets forgotten by the excellence of what you're presently witnessing, because there's nothing in sports better than a surprise. There's nothing better than the underdog surprise, and this is what they are. And whether you like him or not, there is not any disputing that his play has been excellent. He's taking turns with Luka. Why is Luka not tired at the end of games? Because Kyrie is doing shit with the ball handling that Anthony Edwards doesn't have someone else to do outside of, Mike Conley, who you can't trust at 37 to create all sorts of offense.
But are we certain that Luka's tired at the end of games? That's what I'm trying to tell you. We have no way of knowing. Luka is the most annoying basketball player. He's the guy that walks into the gym. He's complaining about his knee. He's got a knee brace on. He's complaining about the shoulder. He's complaining about everything. He looks like he's hurt. He can't jump, and he lights you up for 40 points. I can't stand that guy.
With a cigarette in his mouth. You should love that. Yeah. Luka had 21 in the fourth. Kyrie had 21 in the fourth. The Timberwolves had 20 in the fourth.
You combine their 2 points.
Yeah, when you put them together, when Luka and Kyrie together had 21 points in the fourth. They've been alternating what they're doing in the fourth quarter, Stugotz.
Yeah, but Kyrie was supposed to be a number one, and he's not. Like, Iverson did that as a number one with Eric Snow. Like, that's who Iverson did that with. He got to the NBA Finals. Kyrie has never been a number one and led a team to an NBA Finals or an NBA championship.
You're going to find
he needed
ways
LeBron. Yes, I am.
To criticize Kyrie Irving the way that he's presently playing.
Because he attaches himself to these guys, and then he becomes the number two, and then we praise him when he wins a championship or he gets to the NBA Finals. Kyrie's been an utter disappointment his entire career. I don't want to hear about Kyrie. I don't.
You
what?
Are going to complain about someone else being a number two.
Yeah. I mean, he's supposed to be a number one. I'm supposed to be a number two. Kyrie is supposed to be a number one. That's what I'm saying. And he's not. He's never been a number one. The Cavs were awful until LeBron came back, put him in a position to hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history. I mean, seriously.
Is an odd take.
One play Hall of Fame. I mean.
This is an odd take.
It's my take.
I mean, Kyrie's going to be talked about as one of the more confusing players, especially if he wins this one. Because he can be both things. He could be arguably the game's greatest number two ever outside of maybe Kobe Bryant and Scottie Pippen.
Yep.
But also, he's had the opportunities to be the number one, and he's nuked franchises. He's killed coaches and nuked franchises.
Okay, but in the history of players that size, almost none have ever been a number one who wins a championship at that size.
Isaiah.
Okay, congratulations on picking the one.
Steph.
Steph's bigger than he is.
Kyrie's number two the last year before LeBron came back to Cleveland was Dion Waiters.
So bad what you're doing. How can you turn this into criticizing Kyrie Irving? Like, how can
LeBron got to the finals with worse. I'm just saying.
Okay. Yeah, LeBron's pretty good. He's pretty good at
not
basketball.
LeBron. He's not LeBron James.
Congratulations, Stugotz. You get to be right.
Thank you.
Kyrie Irving is not LeBron James.
Consensus.
Yeah.
Feels good on a Monday.
No one can take that one apart.
What a weird take from you. It was very difficult, Stugotz, to win Gas Bag of the Week this week because Bill Simmons got knocked out as Gas Bag of the Week, even though we have audio here of him saying he'd prefer Gabe Vincent's contract to Kyrie Irving's contract. But we have something better than that. Here is Meadowlark's
Gas Bag
expert
of the Week.
What happened there?
Amin El Hassan is our gas bag of the week because of his analysis when the Celtics traded for Drew Holiday.
Going out and get Damian Lillard for Drew Holiday's corpse and some toenail clippings isn't
what are you doing?
Making this team significantly better. What do you mean, what am I doing?
I mean, what are you saying? You're calling people crud and toenail clippings, and you just called someone a corpse.
No. Hey, you think Drew Holiday is at his peak right now?
No, there's a difference between being at your peak and being a corpse. There are a lot of stops between those two things.
Man, it ain't that many more stops.
Against the Pacers.
Highest I've ever heard your voice.
Against the Pacers, Drew Holiday, 18.5 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game. He had the game-winning steal in Game 3. And according to Stat Mamba on Twitter, he's the first player to average 15, 5, and 5 with a true shooting percentage over 75% in a conference finals series.
The rare sweep, that could have been a sweep the other way. Rob Brendamore is probably watching at home saying, that's what I was talking about over there. The Pacers had a 90% win probability late in those games in 3 out of the 4.
But the Celtics are doing all the things we questioned about the Celtics headed into the postseason. They're playing great. They're doing it late.
And they're doing it late.
Yes.
It's just not the person that we want to see do it late. So
Doesn't
it's
matter.
a little confusing. But, yeah, and if you're a Celtics fan, you don't really care if Tatum's the one doing it. You just want to get there.
Being a corpse. It's very strong to call somebody a corpse who could have won Eastern Conference Finals MVP over Jaylen Brown. Like, could have won it over it. A corpse. A corpse.
This is sneaky because it's not really when people were talking over the course of the regular season, when they were given their opinions on what we might see in the NBA Finals. Boston was always in that conversation, but no one really gave Dallas a chance. And if the Celtics finally going for a high-definition NBA title isn't enough of an appeal to get you into the tent, Kyrie going back to Boston, a place where he's been videoed saging. I mean, this is amazing drama for a sport that has kind of lacked that drama, and it's what the NBA does so well. So I'm in on this NBA Finals. I might have been out on the playoffs, but if it's Dallas-Boston, every game with sound on.
Wow, the highest compliment.
Sound on.
When Mike Ryan says that the Celtics are confusing, here are a couple of things that are going to be hard to get your head around. Right now, Jason Tatum is on pace to have the second most postseason points ever before he's done, because he's always there and he's scoring a bunch of points. And I do believe people are generally reluctant to confer greatness upon this Celtics team, at least in part because there's somewhere in our expectation. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't think it's fair. No, Derek White, I don't want you hitting the important shot with Jaylen Brown setting it up. I want Tatum to do it. I want your best player to have to bail out the team in big moments and be better than everybody. And I don't think history cares or remembers any of that stuff. I don't think it ends up mattering. Just like history doesn't remember the injuries, Stugotz. Kawhi Leonard and Toronto have a championship forever, and nobody cares that Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant were hurt in those finals. So if the Celtics win the championship, it'll simply be one of the best teams ever. But I do wonder whether or not people will remember it that way because of because it's a new sport. They play the game differently than it's been played.
It's been an easy path.
And this team has mastered. Yeah, but easy paths, Stugotz.
I mean, it has been.
It has been an easy path, but it's not like they've gone 12-2.
Right.
In an easy path. They've lost 2 times.
They have 20 losses headed into the NBA Finals, and there aren't a whole bunch of teams in the sport's history that have had 20 or fewer losses headed into the NBA Finals. That's like the Bulls, the Golden State Warriors, those types of teams. They heat in 2013.
They have this. This is what I will say about the Celtics, which is a weird thing to say. They will, if they win the championship, empirically, they will have one of the most dominant seasons that any team has ever had, and it will not be remembered that way.
And that's just how the sport's changed?
I don't have a better explanation for you, right?
Well, I think that the offensive numbers probably just skew everything right now, so you can't actually apply the proper historical prism. It was like it's before integration in some sports. Like the gulf between where the game was in, say, the 90s and where it is now offensively, it's an unrecognizable sport. You have to talk about like pre-merger. You have to talk about it in those terms, pre-merger terms.
Only Kobe Bryant, Stugotz, has more playoff points by this age than Tatum. And he does a lot of scoring of 35, and then you're like, and show me all the ones you remember. Show me all the ones at the end of games. Show me all the ones where I had to see him tested, and I was like, oh, you went face-to-face with Luka. I know Luka's got it. Whatever that is, I know he's got it. He's not afraid of anything. But Luka has just come and stolen out of nowhere, Stugotz. The thing we were talking about with suffering, he suffered. Like, he has been hurt in the playoffs.
We think.
He's been emotionally hurt in the playoffs, physically hurt in the playoffs, and now he sneaks in through the side on, oh, wait a minute. Is it going to be the young players that take over the league? Because I don't think of Luka as young. I think of him as 39.
That guy.
I think of him. I don't think of him as, he is a young player, but I don't think of him as a young player.
He's 25.
His body's not. There's a lot on that odometer.
That's what I'm saying.
He's 25, but there are 100,000 miles on the odometer, and 3 or 4 of the lights are on. 3 or 4 of the lights you don't recognize are on.
How is he 25? I'm not buying it.
It can't be. Luka, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is Luka a young player?
He's younger than Tatum.
Historically, the NBA prime is right around 27 years old. So he still hasn't entered his prime, although his body probably changes the math.
Will he make it?
It'll be the rare 50-50 poll on is he a young player?
It's not that bad, is it? I mean, he does look boxy. Like when they show the graphics of like the conference final players to promote on the lower third, it does like his body looks different, but I guess I have a very similar build, so I'm like, I don't see it.
I'm 25. That's how old I am. We are not the same age. We are not the same.
Lucy, congratulations, by the way. I saw that Awful Announcing voted you as one of the rising newcomers in the American sports media.
Nice.
I salute you. Nobody else around here won the award handed out by Awful Announcing.
I'm 35. So
Thank you. You're 35?
I'm actually
Whoa.
37. I just because 25. I just
Not a
doing
newcomer.
Well, Jeremy just gave you a side eye right now because he thinks he should be one of the up and coming media.
I mean, obviously.
Newcomers. And
I don't have an Emmy, so.
Case in point.
It's not a competition, except it is.
Well, you just made it one.
And I won.
It is.
Why do you always do that, man?
I mean, it is a competition. I didn't do it. I didn't give her the side eye. Jeremy gave her the side eye when I saluted her for getting an award.
No. Then you also threw in no one else around here.
Yeah.
Has done that.
That's the look.
I think
Chris.
I think you and I are done winning newcomer awards. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for being so successful. I don't know what you want from me.
Quickly apologize for your 20 years of success, Stugotz.
I am now going to get to the promised list of the worst that South Florida sports fans have ever felt. Top 5.
Okay.
And I'd like to see if you guys could come up with any more nominees. And these are all season enders, okay? Because I'm telling you that I felt some of what gets felt when a season is closed in that Panther game, specifically, Stugotz, because they're the best third period team in the league. They had 30 shot attempts in the third period. They came back from 4-2 in the third period. They had an advantage on shot attempts of 108 to 43. And then they lose the game, and it's in a pathetic way. It's Bobrovsky like calling for please. It's Bobrovsky. The goal's behind him.
I can't see.
Yeah, we gotta mill about here to see if they go to review and give us a freebie as Bobrovsky whimpers, allowing his 5th goal that somebody gave him an elbow when nobody gave him an elbow, and it wasn't any kind of interference. And it just made me terribly sad for Panther fans.
They're down 2-1 against the Rangers.
No, but Dan's so right. We're down 4-2 going into that period. We get 2 goals, so you could think right there, this is a good period. I'll take overtime, but no. The final 10 minutes, the amount of chances, the deflation that we felt from not getting that go-ahead goal in that third, I felt like we lost right there.
The place was ready to erupt. Stugotz, here's what you have happening in this series.
Well, half the place, because half of the
Ranger
season
fans.
ticket
Ranger
holders
fans,
made a decision over the weekend, and I'm not thrilled about.
It wasn't half.
I mean, they needed the money.
It was a lot of Ranger
Sounded
fans.
like half.
There
It was
were
a lot of money.
lot
Yeah.
of Ranger fans. I thought up 1-0, and you're in New York, and the game's tied 1-1, and there's just a beautiful give and go to Barkov right in front of the net. And from there, the Panthers have done nothing but lose. Barkov somehow missed. I was not expecting him to miss. Never expecting him to miss. And ever since Chris Cody took this photograph in New York, a lot of people are pointing out that the Panthers have done nothing but lose since Chris Cody attached his particular brand of stink to the Panthers' run.
Mike Fuentes, dead to me. Unnecessary tweet.
So it's your fault.
I mean,
Hey, you enjoy your 37 retweets with that, buddy?
Whoa.
Jesus.
No, I hate him.
Lashing out. I mean, it's a great tweet.
No, you think he knew what he was doing there. He's like, oh, this is going to crush. This will be good. And what do you care about my feelings, though? Nothing? No. How's this going to make Chris feel? I bet that didn't cross his mind.
No.
Jerk.
do you feel like you're a jinx and a poison and that you're spoiling everything that felt
Only
good
at
about
road
the
games.
Panthers?
Don't do this to me. I have a good home record. I've been to a lot of
you at
games
game
this
3?
year. I was at game 3. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
It's my new Kachuk jersey. That's
Right.
0-2. That thing's not getting worn tonight.
Yeah.
Throw it away.
I'm like
Yeah.
that too.
You
The
have to burn
Reinhardt,
it.
my Reinhardt jersey's 0-2-1. Not wearing that thing again.
I almost burnt it.
You should.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Will you superstitiously toss the wearing of a jersey after you've lost an important game?
We're going red, Captain C. Barkov today.
I'm going Old Faithful Kachuk Jersey because that thing's about 10-2 this year.
Yeah, that
Back
one's
to
seen
the
some
basics.
dubs.
Yeah.
I'm going with this hoodie, DraftKings.
I find it fairly amazing that adult human beings in my employ think that a shirt they put on during a game changes the
but me
result
being
of
there.
the play.
Yeah, but who called for that New York graphic, Dan Le Batard?
You went to Tampa and they
Mr.
lost.
Sample size, 0-2. They were overtime losses, by the way.
Shirts don't matter.
That's just the overtime numbers evening out for Florida.
My jersey's never lost in regulation.
Kachuk is out there, and the only part of his body that works is his navel. And you guys are like, I know, I'll get it out of my dresser, and this is what's going to win this game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you're well, and no one thanks me when I pull the jersey that's 2-0-1.
You should get a ring. I mean,
I should get a ring. What are you talking about?
Given how much Chris sweats through some of that stuff, I imagine there is a ring around like the collar of it. Some of the stats from Game 3, Stugotz. When Kachuk was out there, their shot attempt advantage was 56-6. When Verhaeghe was out there, the shot attempt advantage was 56-9. It's why I'm saying that I can't remember a game early in a series, right? When we're talking about, I can say about the Miami Heat, Game 6 to you, and you think Ray Allen, and you think LeBron in Boston. I give you just Game 6 Heat history. If I give you Game 5 Heat history, you might think to yourself, oh, Paul Pierce making that 3 over LeBron. I was scared. It required the Game 6 for the blueprint. But Game 3s usually don't echo in a way that the feeling is so bad that, like, man, I'm going to feel the scar of that one.
3 words. Dexter Pittman game.
Wow.
In Indiana?
He lost by 20. And Dwayne Wade left the team and consulted Tom Crean. We thought it was all over.
Mike, how about Game 2 against the Mavericks, where the Heat were up big, they were shadow boxing in the corner, LeBron and Wade, and then they lost that game and lost the series.
That Game 3 also sings. Wade missed a couple of free throws. Like, that's one that rings eternal.
Well, how about this? Of all of these that I'm about to give you, none of them are in hockey and none of them are in baseball. Those entire franchises don't have the gut punch losses that the Heat and the Dolphins
Not even Trocheck
do.
getting tripped.
So you didn't include the Hurricanes.
I do include the Hurricanes.
Okay, well, there's a baseball one for the Hurricanes.
Oh, there is a baseball one.
loss.
Yes, I don't put that one in here. I told you guys before that Jim Morris was a strike away from winning the College World Series. LSU hits a home run, and his entire offseason, he had actual nightmares that he was trapped under the dugout with only a sliver of space that he could see through because of how traumatic that was. That's right, Lucy. That's it. You lose.
The entire offseason?
Yeah, he said
That's what people mean when they say you gotta hurt. You gotta feel some suffering.
In his
Canes
sleep,
won like 2 of the next 4 titles.
In his sleep, he would fall asleep and have a nightmare that he was trapped under the dugout, and like if he was in a Turkish prison in solitary confinement, all he had was a sliver to see outside from under the dugout, that home run being hit again and again against him. It's an unbelievable nightmare.
Is he okay now?
I don't know.
He's married. He's got a kid. He's super happy. Retired.
He's
Legend.
moved past it, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think he has.
It's a tough one to shake.
I don't think he has. You guys can say it.
Yeah.
You guys can say it from the comfort of over here. He's moved past it. Those nightmares.
It's kind of true. Like, it's up. It's like right behind the Fiesta Bowl. It's there.
That particular nightmare, I'm not kidding you when I say that's something that could be felt from someone that fought at Saigon.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to talk about sports losses that molded a person. That one's right up there for me.
Saigon?
Yes.
Well, Saigon. Yeah, I was talking about Saigon.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a particular kind of nightmare. Number 5.
Wow.
Dan Marino loses in the Super Bowl to Washington.
Didn't he lose to San Francisco?
He did. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. The rookie year.
That's a fine. Yeah. $5.
It's a different Super Bowl.
I mean, Marino, Montana. My whole career is built on that.
The Washington Super Bowl was John Riggins and Jimmy Cefalo. My bad. That's right.
I thought you were going
David
with
Woodley was a quarterback.
I thought you were going to go with the AFC playoff game. Stojanovic missed. Natron Means stepped out of bounds. He stepped out of bounds.
No, hold on. You got to give me time
He
to
didn't
get
mean
through.
business.
You got to get time.
Oh, no. Means business.
Anyway, go ahead, Dan. Off to a hot start.
He didn't mean business because his name is
Natron means business.
Means.
Except for that day.
Well, that day he did.
I believe I read the other day that, like Marino and like Brock Purdy, the last 18 quarterbacks to debut in a Super Bowl and lose never got back there. Never got back.
Wow.
The Jalen Hurtses of the world, they just never get back. So
is that like wait, what's his debut at the Super Bowl, like inside of 2 years? Their Super Bowl debut is a loss. Oh, okay. Oh, and they never get back.
Yes.
Yeah, Kaepernick, different things happen there.
Correct.
Why would you make a pausing your list as we collect ourselves?
Yeah.
The Goodell statement on Harrison Butker. Oh God, man. It's just What do you how do you imagine that lands with Colin Kaepernick?
Not well.
How do you think that lands in general with an audience that wants their commissioner to consider and welcome all sides and not exclude any customer whatsoever? So gives everybody the right to say whatever it is that they want to say, unless they do it silently kneeling in front of a flag.
Right. I think that's what everyone's doing, which is, okay, it seems as though companies have figured out from what happened to one beer, this is how we play this going forward. Okay, they don't want cancel culture. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, basically. This is a seismic shift, and it's not just from the leagues themselves who you expect to answer for. The players are doing this. I mean, just think about what's happened around Kansas City in that franchise in the last few months. There's been ample opportunity for Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce to make real statements, to actually guys that can truly reach across the aisle and get everyone in on a common message. And look, it's how they feel. They have their own convictions about things, but they just kind of say no thanks. Everyone just do their own thing, and that's the line now, which is funny because it's just. And I know Jon Stewart recently did this cancel culture thing. We've had some discussion about it with how it favors stand-up comedians. It's in their best interest to keep this thing going about cancel culture because that's how you seem dangerous, too hot for TV, and you only get more deals out of it. The only people that have suffered any punitive measures from cancel culture outside of like the judicial system has been progressivist, Hollywood elite. I mean, some of them have done really bad things, but you think about like Kathy Griffin and Colin Kaepernick and the people that have actually been canceled. Al Franken, like it's not an actual punitive measure on the right. Look at Harrison Butker's charmed existence right now.
On top 5 tangent, respect to top 5. Number 4.
I will get there in a second.
Wow, he just cannonballed out of that one, man.
Jesus.
Number 4, Allen Houston ends the Miami Heat season with a ball that bounces on the rim 27 times as an 8 seed.
Mm-hmm. Can I go back to number 5 for a second? Because I don't think Dolphin fans were crushed when Marino lost to Montana in that Super Bowl. I think they thought the way that Marino thought, hey, I'm going to get back here, and I'm going to get back here a lot, right? It took years for that to develop.
You think a lot of fans lose the Super Bowl and aren't crushed?
I mean, not when you have a young quarterback like Marino and you think to yourself, hey, we'll get back here plenty.
Yeah.
They never got back there.
It's what made the losses to the Chargers and to the Bills primarily like sting real bad, because then you were starting to get hit with the reality like, wait, that was actually our only shot at this?
Mm-hmm.
To your point, Mike, on what it is that you're saying about Harrison Butker,
Really?
what it is that shows me from Mahomes, Goodell, and Andy Reid, that when it comes to leadership in those positions that they're in, they are actually more interested in staying out of the headlines and the distractions. The thing that they want to lead is away from distractions more than to give you whatever their opinion is on X, Y, and Z and the kicker. Number 3,
Thank you.
LeBron loses to the Dallas Mavericks. Number 2 is either one of the Dolphin losses to San Diego, the Kellen Winslow one or the one that would have been AFC Championship ready a long time ago.
Not really how top 5s work. Like, which one is it?
Yeah.
It's
your top 5.
I
mean, it's not ours.
They got dominated by Kellen Winslow, but there's legitimate beef if you're a Dolphins fan. All that happened before instant replay. Natron Means did step out of bounds. Like, the big game-breaking play in that shouldn't have happened, and then Stojanovic, who you could count on, just comes up short, and San Diego ends up going to the Super Bowl that year. Now, granted, it probably would have ended in another loss to San Francisco for the Miami Dolphins, because that Niners team that ended up winning was one of the greatest teams of all time. But it would have been a hometown Super Bowl. They would have been the first to ever host it. And as we've seen, the last 2 teams, the only 2 teams to ever host a Super Bowl, have won it.
And number 1, the University of Miami loses to Ohio State on a bogus call by Terry Porter, who has been hiding since.
So 2 that have happened this century.
1 in the last 20 years.
What am I missing? Give me the one.
The Marcus Thornton game against Sacramento. We all thought the blueprint was on the line.
Yeah.
There was a Memphis Grizzlies game where Udonis broke his foot and also Spo got shoved intentionally. I think we can all see that now.
Good one.
Who was the Utah Jazz player whose name?
Paul Millsap.
Oh, the Millsap.
Oh, that Millsap.
Jesus, he lit us up.
Us. What are you talking about?
I mean, I had season tickets at the time.
What are you talking about? You scalped all your season tickets.
I did.
You were
Paul Millsap.
Just like Panther fans.
I am telling
That's
you.
That's disgusting.
It is.
Roy, you do not show us emotion, but that loss, I'm telling you, made me conjure that list because outside of those all-ended seasons, everything I'm mentioning is your season's over, you don't get to play again tonight. It's just done. You're just suffering. But the way that game was played, the way the final goal was scored, the way the Rangers did nothing. They did nothing from the third period on. For them to leave with a series lead like that is just debilitating.
And that's the prime example of playoff hockey. You could dominate a team the entire game, and then one shot, one bounce, game over.
Roy,
what's scary is that's the story. That's been the story of the Rangers for these last 2 rounds. Is they kind of got you where they want you, with you feeling good about yourself, thinking that you have way more attempts, and then they just end up coming up. I don't know how sustainable worldies are and these individual moments of brilliance, but that's when the math starts getting skewed. You look at what's happened so far this series, and you think, well, the math is just going to even out. Well, you know what changes math? All-world performances from your goalie and individual moments of brilliance that win games. And they've had that from Gaudreau, and they've had that from Lafreniere.
When I told you guys that I feared Tampa Bay and I feared Boston, it's not them that I feared. It's hockey. It's what just happened, where when you're better and it doesn't mean shit.
Hello there, it's Mike Ryan bringing you a throwback interview with former world #1 golfer Greg Norman. Let's listen in on this classic conversation from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz.
He is on his private plane right now, flying to somewhere very important where he will do death-defying things. Greg Norman returns with us.
Do you think he's the pilot of his private plane?
No, I do not, but he can do that. Let's ask him right now. Greg, thank you for rejoining us. What is the most awed that Greg Norman has ever been by nature? Like a circumstance that you found yourself in. We've talked about the panic and the misadventures. What's the most awed you've been just sort of gazing at something and feeling just really small in the universe?
Because we were awed by Greg Norman in nature.
That's right.
Yeah,
right. We are awed by you in nature, naked. How about you being awed by something in nature?
I guess getting up close with Mount Everest was one of them. I think the certain parts of Australia called Arnhem Land, which goes back, the Aboriginal burial grounds and cave systems there, where you see paintings that are 35, 40,000 years old. Those are the type of things where you really do get awestruck and just say, hey, I've stepped back in time. And probably the most spiritual one I've ever been to, and I highly recommend everybody, would be go to Bhutan, a very, very small country sandwiched between north of India and south of Tibet and China. And actually, the country was really only discovered after World War II. They didn't even know World War II existed. So it's just a very spiritual, beautiful place to go.
What's the worst injury you suffered on your adventures, Greg?
Worst injury. Knock on wood, I've never broken a bone in my life. So how about that?
Really?
I mean, come on.
Really?
Yeah.
Never? You've never harmed yourself despite being this kind of thrill seeker?
Believe it or not, I have not. I mean, obviously, I've had injuries. I've had 13 surgeries, but that came from hitting about 5 million golf balls over my career, but that was about it.
Do you have an actual bucket list, Greg? Do you have a list somewhere that has the items that you want to do on it?
Like that you wrote out?
No, I have them in my head. Like I mentioned the other day, I'd dive under the Antarctic ice pack. That would be one. You know, a real far-out one would be climbing Mount Everest, but I don't think I have the 2 years to dedicate to train for that specifically. But you know, there are things on my bucket list, and I'd go into outer space, to tell you the truth. I was hoping to get up on the SR-71 many years ago, but I was close to it. But you know, I'd love to get into space.
Wait a minute, what? Wait a minute, what happened? Wait, how do you get into space?
Close, you're an astronaut?
Wait a minute, are you talking to Musk and all these people who are thinking about going to Mars? Are you having any secret negotiations with people so that Greg Norman is one of the first normal human beings in space, or non-astronauts in space?
No secret discussions. Just something that I would happily do.
One last thing, and we've delighted in spending this time with you, and we're grateful. Stugotz is going to now push the boundaries on this, because go ahead, do the thing that you've been wanting to do since we got Greg Norman on. Go ahead.
Well, Greg, I figured now it's 4 consecutive days on the show. I feel like we have struck up a friendship here. Me, you, and
Just
Dan.
get to it. Just make your request. He's got people playing angles on him all the time.
But this has nothing to do with Dan. And by the way, I will throw in that I live in Parkland Golf and Country Club, which is a Greg Norman course, which I love, by the way. You did a fantastic job there.
Just ask him for what you want. Stop with that.
Just buttering him up first, but you have your bucket list and I have mine. And on my bucket list, Greg, it is to play Augusta National with my dad.
You are gross.
And Greg Norman.
You are gross.
That is on my bucket list.
God.
I'm a big golfer. I'm a pretty good golfer. I just played Whistling Straits, and I want to play with my dad and the Shark. And if my dad can't come, that's fine. It's just me and you.
And if you can't come, it's fine too.
Yeah.
As long as you get him on the course at Augusta.
Can we make this happen?
Well, can we make it happen? Anything's possible. You know that. Anything's possible. So now I know what your bucket list is. Number one is let's just see what we can play around with. But I will say this. Next time I'm down in Miami, I'm going to come in there and harass you guys live in your studio.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Cannot wait.
Listen, and I have a promise as well. I'm never going to stop harassing you about playing Augusta.
He's never going to stop asking you. But our audience really loves you, Greg, and appreciates the time you spent with us. Thank you for doing so.
Guys, had a lot of fun. Love to repeat it anytime you want.
All right. Monday?
That's great to know. All right. So Monday. We'll talk to you on Monday. I wanted to ask you a question, Stugotz, on a couple of different things that we have happening here because Hip Hop Weekend, Memorial Day weekend, used to be something in South Florida that was a giant party that was distinctive, that had flair, that was ethnic and specific to Miami. And it's been nuked. Like what happened, and it's been slow over the last couple of years. What they've done is the policing has been so aggressive and the traffic so uncomfortable, the parking situation so bad, that basically over the last couple of years, they have simply, through legal means and not very well concealed, made South Beach not as friendly to black people, not as welcoming to black people. And so living on the beach this weekend and seeing the growth of what it is that they did, where the police force was very strong on the ground, but they added the bonus military presence of let's put an air and sea show here. Let's make it super loud with bombers going over 6 and 7 hours a day. And furthermore, and I didn't have my phone on me when this happened, but I wanted to video it just because of what Hip Hop Weekend used to be versus what it is that they were doing aggressively this weekend, which there was a band playing what I'm going to call the Founding Fathers hit list. Like it was a playlist that would have been what the Founding Fathers put together of just, the Star-Spangled Banner and Hail to the Chief, just an assortment of syrupy patriotic music.
Songs that J.J. Watt plays in his car.
Yeah. Songs that you wouldn't necessarily call a bop.
Mm-hmm.
The soundtrack to J.J. Watt's every step toward a life filled with soaring eagles and a heart filled with American pride. It was not hip-hop. It was not within 200 years of hip.
Is it better? Is it better out there for residents?
Yes.
Yeah.
You liked it.
It's a welcome change of pace. Like,
You're a
keep
resident,
in mind, like, it wasn't just the amount of crime, it was how sensational the crime was when this thing was in its referred to heyday. I mean, we had zombies eating people outside of Herald buildings. We had gunshots exchanged right on Ocean Drive. Like, it was kind of bad.
Wait, what zombies?
There was somebody on bath salts.
It's a good question.
It actually turned out, I did some Googling, turned out no bath salts were in the system.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really? The person, first of all,
according to the one article.
That wasn't on South Beach, though.
No, that was right like at the edge of the bridge that takes you to South Beach, right by the Herald building.
Lucy, you're not familiar with a zombie person who I thought was on so many drugs that they bit someone's face and created a great deal of damage to someone's face, and they made it the zombie eater of people.
No, Dan, I'm not familiar with that.
You might have been pretty young when this happened. This happened like 2012.
Mm-hmm.
It was memorable. I don't associate that with Memorial Day, though.
Google it. It was right around that window where everyone's in town. Yeah.
Huh.
But they put an end to it, Stugotz. And I would say it was quieter out there, but again, there were bombers going over the ocean. The ground, the land was quieter. The air and the sea were not quite as quiet. But it was a lot of this being played all over the place.
A lot of flutes?
Well, I don't know if this is the opposite of hip-hop, but it's pretty close to the opposite of hip-hop, whatever it is, however it is that you define such things.
I think you can make a sample out of this and make something special.
I remember calling the hospital, seeing if we can get the victim on, just like a true error in judgment.
That is
when you're under pressure to book for the big guy,
right?
That is a bad decision.
Wasn't mine. I can assure you that.
You got to try.
Usually, when the button is like call the person in Jackson whose face was just eaten or don't, I'm usually reaching as soon as I can for the don't.
The other thing that was quiet this Memorial Day weekend, Stugotz, and this is a recurring trend, and I don't know if movie theaters are dead, but they are fast headed from endangered to extinct, I would imagine, because I would think that Furiosa, the Mad Max sequel, I would think.
You really had to do that.
No, you didn't. Why did you do it?
I just made.
Why did you do it?
Because you weren't sure?
It's the local hour. No, I wanted to make it Hispanic. I wanted to make her Hispanic.
Furiosa. Okay.
The Mad Max sequel. If there were ever a movie that I would want to watch in the theater because it will be visually amazing, and I know it'll be visually amazing, and it'll be better to watch in the theater than it is to watch at home, this would be that movie. And this was the worst Memorial Day weekend at movie theaters since 1995. There has not been a worse day this century. Furiosa barely beat Garfield in its opening weekend after budgeting and having one of those smoking Hemsworths in the middle of things. After a budget of like $165 million, it opened at a little over $30 million. And I imagine, like Fall Guy, it'll be on video demand very quickly. I think Fall Guy was 2 weeks, right? That it took to go from the theaters to
I watched that over this weekend.
Home. And?
I liked it. It definitely seemed like, I've read some reviews that it kind of meshes with. It seems like a long-time stunt guy who finally was able to make a movie, got to live out his dreams of throwing Tom Cruise under a bus.
Speaking of Tom Cruise, his Mission Impossible 8 movie, Stugotz, is approaching $400 million in budget. And
worth it.
They've had a submarine malfunction of some sort that has caused a lot of expense, of course. Mission Impossible 8 is now going to knock out the Bond series as the most successful of these franchises ever, right?
Really?
I mean,
in terms of box office, I was asking out of genuine curiosity because there's the Marvel movies, which probably... of spy genre, perhaps you're right. I mean, they have to do a submarine thing. That's because of how the movie ended. The other half, the key to the entity is somewhere below polar waters. Do you guys remember that one?
They need the sub scene, is what you're saying.
You need a sub for this one.
Right.
I was looking at the Memorial Day weekend in 1995. By the way, Crimson Tide came out a week before that, which is
great
funny.
movie. Gene Hackman, yeah.
So the premieres were Casper. That's the Friend of Ghost movie. Johnny Mnemonic. That was Keanu Reeves.
File.
Mad Love.
Is that Christian Slater?
I think that's
Chris O'Donnell.
Right. Tales from the Hood and A Pure Formality. A Pure Formality made $35,000. 11 theaters, so
$35,000.
Wow.
I don't think you
probably
needed to mention
that.
I don't think that needed mentioning.
But it opened that.
Furiosa tanking is a surprise. Now you called it a sequel. It's not a sequel. Maybe that's part of the reason why.
Oh, it's a prequel.
It's a prequel. So you have Anya Taylor-Joy playing the title character, where before it was Charlize Theron, and you don't have Tom Hardy in this one, but you do have two tentpole actors that have over 100 million followers on social media. They're big modern day stars, and yet it didn't get people out to the movie theaters. And I think leading people, the top of the marquee is generally overstated in today's box office. It's not what gets people out there.
But if that movie visually doesn't get you into a theater, where I have some friends who went to the theater and did it the big way, where you have the side screens and the surround, everything visually is surround. It's not just in front of you.
Like IMAX or 4DX?
Yeah, they're it's overwhelming. It's because I when you tell me Fury Road, that's as beautiful a movie as I've ever seen visually. You can go ahead and nominate whatever you want over that, and I'm going to tell you it's not better than that. It's not appreciably better. I'm not even the guy who loves 2 hours of just straight action movie, but that thing was so beautiful to just look at. Isn't the director of this over 80 years old?
Yeah. Yeah, he's directed the entire franchise. Fury Road wasn't a huge hit out of the gates either. What carried Fury Road was a lot of word of mouth, but word of mouth box office is certainly something that you lose in the age of video on demand, because now the expectation is sometimes it's announced that, hey, this will be on video on demand in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure who that serves, but now it's just expected. Oh, if I can't get a sitter in the next 2 weeks, I'll just wait like 2 more weeks and I'll see it from my home.
I don't know how many of you guys feel this way. I talked to you last week about Beverly Hills Cop 4 is now being made, and Beverly Hills Cop was 3 was so terrible, so bad that I lost faith in the franchise. Fury Road was so good that I feel like I can nearly guarantee you that visually this movie that is out now is going to be epic and beautiful, and I don't have any question about it's going to be well made. It's going to be presented in a way. I haven't seen any Rotten Tomato score.
Yeah, no, it was celebrated beforehand from screenings. People that saw it, it entered the box office with a good amount of critical hype, and audiences have seemed to like it. But yeah, I think if you miss opening box office weekend, you're now kind of built for the discussion that I was just having with my wife. It's like, if we can't get a sitter this weekend, let's just wait 3 weeks. We'll do that. And we did that with 2 movies over the weekend. We did that with Civil War, and we did that with The Fall Guy. 2 movies that, yeah, in a perfect world, I'd like to make it out to the theater, but if I know I'm going to be able to watch it from my couch, it's no sweat of mine. Like if I don't secure a sitter in the first 2 weeks.
Is The Fall Guy made after the television series in the 80s with Lee Majors?
But Mike,
yes.
Really?
What's the difference between now? Back in the day, now it's streaming. Back in the day, I'd wait for it to come out for rental.
The latency period, Chris, to answer your question,
Months.
it would take several months depending on the movie. If it were a holiday release, it would take a year. Depending on the movie, it would take 10 to 12 months. Depending on the hit, it could take over a year. So yeah, there's a huge difference between how it was and how things are now. And also another market that you're losing entirely now is there were some movies that made their name on VHS releases and DVD releases. Zoolander, the week that it was released, 9/11 happened. And Zoolander is thought of as this monster comedy hit. It spawned a sequel, but nobody saw that thing in the box office. It gained a second life on DVD, on home releases, and you don't really have that. A VOD release, I'm not talking about streaming exclusives because there have been some good stories there, but a VOD release hasn't gotten the people talking.
Post-pandemic, I think the only thing that has gotten people to the theaters is Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, and Barbie. Those are the 3 that
Maverick.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Forgive me. I filed that under just Tom Cruise. And I put
that saved movies.
I know. I put that under Mission Impossible. And it's
relative
the wrong
disappointment
place to
held
put
up against the rest of the franchise, but Top Gun Maverick did save cinema. Thank you, Tom Cruise.
You're concerned about the movie-going experience? People don't want to go to the movies anymore.
Oh,
I mean...
But Stugotz, I'm just telling you that what you will not be able to convince me of is that watching this particular movie, having seen Fury Road,
right.
It's not the same in your bedroom as it is at the movie theater. It's not even the same in your theater room if you have one of those as that would be in a movie theater. That movie is perfect for a movie theater.
Dune 2 did solid at the box office, and it is now on Max, I believe. I didn't get a chance to see that. I do like going to the movies, and I do think that there is actually there's a recent uptick in people attending the movies, but it's what used to work is not working today. You could always bank on, let me get a big-time star for this tentpole action movie. Let me give it a holiday weekend, and it would take off, especially if it's adjacent to a franchise, and it hasn't. It's dead on arrival.
Or your theater room is one of the richest things you've ever said, by the way.
That guy.
I don't have a theater room.
I know, but just the idea of
But anyone who says it, I mean...
I do have like a 4-door sedan hanging up on that wall I'm proud of.
I'm just telling you that even if you have a theater room, it's not as good as this particular movie in one of those IMAX theaters.
One of the things that I am hearing word of mouth on a VOD release that I'm curious to see how it works is people that have seen the movie Challengers are telling me that the marketing was like way off on that film. The marketing, if you just seen the trailer or how the print ads are for it, you just think that it's basically a Tennis Wild Things. Oh, was that a moment in time?
I watched it yesterday, and that's what I was preparing for, and that's not what it was. And honestly, I was a little disappointed.
You wanted Tennis Wild Things.
Yeah, TikTok was like, girl, this is crazy. And I said, okay, I'm going to watch. I was going to go see it in the theater, but by the way it was like broadcasted or marketed, I was like, ooh, if I go see this movie by myself in the theater, people are like, that girl's a pervert, can't do that. So then I just watched it with Jessica, and wow, it's really not all that. There's like one little kissing scene, and you're like, okay, well, that was false advertising, but it was a pretty good movie.
Wild Things seems to be out of Lucy's reference point. Wild Things, when was that movie?
Yeah.
Like,
You
how
make
old is
my
that?
heart sing.
No, you see Kevin Bacon's dick. It looks like Gonzo's nose.
No, I have not seen that then.
Wild Things is Nev Campbell, and it's what, 90s? It's mid-90s.
I've done that thing on the radio where it's like, okay, I'm getting into this, and then Matt Dillon says, yeah, in like a very strange way. And it
The
just
creepiest of all time.
Yeah. And it just like totally ruins that scene.
It was 98, by the way.
She thinks more Wild Things is Major League. She started singing Wild.
No, there's a bottle of champagne, but then you're like, okay, whoa, this is not what I expected. But then Matt Dillon goes, yeah, and it's just gross.
There is something gross about that, but did you just to be clear, did you say that Kevin Bacon's penis looked like my father's nose?
No, Gonzo the Muppet.
I can see why you thought that, yeah.
And I'm not
I
sure,
appreciate the opportunity to clarify.
I'm not sure which one's more accurate, whether it's Mike's or mine. I just don't like to think of my father's nose being Kevin Bacon's penis.
No, Gonzo the Muppet that has a weird thing for chickens that's just like socially accepted.
It should be understood, I feel like.
We're still trotting out Garfield, huh?
Garfield. It wasn't even the opening weekend for Garfield. It must be.
I think it might. My wife did take my daughter to see Garfield. She did not opt for Furiosa.
Chris Pratt came out. He said, "I don't like lasagna." I said, "Ooh, I need a method actor. I'm not watching this."
What?
Yeah, he said, "I don't like lasagna. You're playing Garfield. That's the only thing you need to do."
Yeah.
Is like lasagna.
And
He
Chris
said
Pratt,
no.
why is he the voice? The previous voice was Bill Murray. That's closer to the Garfield we know and love.
And he likes lasagna, too.
I feel like Chris Pratt keeps getting these like crazy voice roles. Like, wasn't he like Mario and Luigi too?
Yeah.
How does he
Mario,
keep landing these?
The roles, because he's safe. Everyone likes Chris Pratt.
He has a funny
Not
voice.
me.
You don't like Chris Pratt?
No. I thought nobody liked Chris Pratt.
I mean, the box office would suggest. The guy's got like two of the greatest amusement park rides ever made. The roller coaster, the Velocicoaster, and the
I haven't
Guardians
been on
of the
that one
Galaxy.
yet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm
What
waiting
an
for my
experience.
daughter to get to the height where we can just knock
Dude,
out all the rides
the
there.
Velocicoaster and Guardians, just great rides.
That's strong. Guardians is
He's
strong.
a goat for like amusement park ride guy. Chris Pratt, goat.
The Office has produced a couple of
Parks and Rec.
That's a fine.
Yeah,
excuse me.
Recreation.
Parks and Rec has produced two superhero threads.
Is it
Have
Rob
they-
Lowe? Because he did do
Catherine
that to
Hahn?
someone, the chest one time.
I feel like. Let me think about this for a second. I'm going to have to look this
John
up.
Ralphio?
No, I'm going to look it up.
Well, he was
Aubrey
Sonic the
Plaza.
Hedgehog.
He was Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's no more ridiculous
She's
than
having a
having
moment.
these people in general.
Plaza,
You can
yeah.
make anybody a superhero if you can make the people from Parks and Rec and The Office superheroes.
Nick Offerman was a president, like in Civil War. It wasn't very popular.
Oh,
I'm not gonna spoil the. There's a good movie in Civil War. It's just not what came out.
What do you mean? I thought it was critically acclaimed.
No,
I
there's
thought-
a scene but it's just very bizarre. Like, first off, the characters don't learn anything from their experiences. They just double down on just making worse and worse decisions.
But you're saying there's a good movie in there somewhere?
There
you
is.
just haven't seen
like,
it
we
yet.
need to, like, there's absolutely a movie to be
Right.
made about, like, wartime photojournalists, and it's got to be better than Don Johnson's Heartbeat, which spawned a great song, by the way, called Heartbeat by Don Johnson.
Paul Rudd is Ant-Man.
Oh, he was in Parks and Rec.
Yeah, he was in Parks and Rec.
So it didn't do great, but Paul Rudd, to have two of those, I thought, okay,
I
that
don't care what you say. You give it away. Your money don't mean much to me.
to have two United States governors emerge from the movie Predator was one of the most stunning things of my lifetime. But I think Chris Pratt and Paul Rudd emerging as superheroes from the Parks
Everybody
and Rec
tells
genre.
me how I can beat the odds for now.
Has a cat ever had a greater run than Garfield? I mean, seriously, 1978, and still a top movie today. It's amazing. Sylvester, Tom. I mean,
Garfield's had a good run.
Andres
Indisputably.
Galarraga.
Can feel the heat. Can feel the heat. Heartbeat. heartbeat.
He asked the question just so that he could get to
I
Galarraga.
did.
You do realize that.
Looking for a heartbeat.
Yes, I noticed that you got there.
I think a Zappa brother was on guitar for that song. Beating like mine.
Can we get the Don Johnson video, please? Can you guys find it and just play it in picture?
I think that's covered by the algo. If we just put up another YouTube video, they get twice the royalties, I think.
If your last name is Zappa, you have to play the guitar, right?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Maybe not for Don Johnson. That one's weird.
Can one of you please look up, because I asked this question before and nobody looked it up, but Don Johnson's late career reemergence as a stereotypical racist, like he is playing racist in Django. He's playing it in an assortment in Watchmen. He keeps playing like dramatically racist human beings, and it's like 5 or 6 of them that Don Johnson has played.
He's aged well too. Like, you know,
Except
kind of
for that
goatee. Well, kind of, yeah. I don't know. Like, kind of looks like Mickey Arison. He can play Mickey Arison in a movie.
Ooh.
Yeah. There was that weird time in the 80s where if you were a star, it didn't matter what your voice was, you had to put out a single. Like Bruce Willis put out a single. Frank Stallone put out a single. Patrick Swayze, although that one's a certified banger.
Well, so's Frank Stallone's. Don't take.
Far From Over.
Frank Stallone had a hit song. Wasn't that a top 10 song?
Far From Over? No.
I believe Frank Stallone had a certified top 10 hit. I don't know if
it might not have been Far From Over.
I don't know
which
whether
was
it's that
just
or
like
something
an
else.
all-time banger. I tell you, I play that for myself. Like when I want to fire myself up, like before a fantasy draft, I play Far From Over. Man, that is an all-timer. Heartbeat's not good. And part of what makes Heartbeat good is that Don Johnson's very bad. I learned about Don Johnson's Heartbeat because there was like an MTV special where they put together like the hot comedians of the time. It was Jon Stewart, Dennis Leary, Ben Stiller, and I believe Janine Garofalo. And they would just react to all these terrible music videos. And I think Don Johnson's Heartbeat was number 1.
Dan is right, though. Far From Over did peak in the top 10.
Whoa!
Yes.
Was also nominated for a Grammy and a Golden Globe Award.
Well, that's good to hear. That it's not just something that I like, that the masses liked it, because it's undeniable. It is a tour de force.
Lucy, put it on the poll. Is Don Johnson's Heartbeat a tour de force at Le Batard Show?
Well, I was talking about Far From Over. That's his tour de force.
Is Frank Stallone's, put that up there as well.
Yes.
Is Frank Stallone, whatever the name of that song is that a tour de force?
Far From Over.
Lucy, did I hear you express shock that Bruce Willis played the harmonica and played music?
I didn't even know he played the harmonica. Yeah. This is all news to me. Can we hear it, or are we not allowed? I don't know the rules.
He was a little bluesy. Like he was fine. Yeah. In that era, She's Like the Wind, I think we can all agree. That's the best one by Patrick Swayze. She's Like the Wind.
I didn't know he had songs either.
She's Like the Wind.
That's not Christopher Cross? Don Johnson's Heartbeat peaked at number 5.
What? Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah.
What a time.
Play that, Zappa. Can't tell which Zappa you are. So I'm just saying Zappa. There he is. That's Zappa with the good hair. It's a Zappa with hair. It's the loose-fitting clothes. Yeah.
Christopher Cross was Ride Like the Wind.
I thought that's what you said. Isn't it what you said?
I think so. No.
What did you say?
Something else.
You don't even remember.
Looking too many things up. She's Like the Wind. Yeah.
She's
Got
like
to
the
be.
wind.
And that was Swayze.
If you guys want to have the evolution of this show just be us watching old terrible videos.
Watch how he brings it in. Watch how he brings it in with his elbows.
Oh, so good.
He really had the world by the balls here.
He was an actor first. Yeah, Miami Vice, which also gets a nice little shout out in the Fall Guy. Not the actual series though, the old Universal Studios stunt show.
Whenever I go to a bar and they have like music videos like this up on a TV, I know I'm about to have the time of my life.
Yeah.
Do you realize where your confidence has to be in pop culture to go not just from acting to song, but to say, you know what I'm going to do? Ballad.
Yeah. Power ballad.
I'm going to do ballad. I am going to grab your lady's swooning heart, friends.
That is, along with the sex scene, that is something that we have lost from a bygone era that was better. power ballads. No one makes rock power ballads anymore. Thank God Creed's back together. That's all I got to say.
That's all they do.
Yeah, you need a warrant in your life. You need warrant.
Why is my father's nose on the screen right now?
So we mentioned that we miss sex scenes in movies and we miss monster ballads. And in talking about monster ballads, Dan, I also realized there was something else from a bygone era that wasn't super convenient. And it's probably better today because you can just, with the touch of a finger, put together an epic playlist for whenever you go out on the boat or something. But compilation CD commercials on your television set. As you're watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on UPN or whatever, you could count on every break someone reminding you that, hey, there was this era in music where there was just straight bangers. And the first one I want to play is, of course, Monster Ballads.
They taught us how to love. Give us something to believe in. They taught us how to live. And now they're back. Monster Ballads.
All these white people with long hair, man.
Wait. I think Living Color's around.
Oh, okay.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Did Poison teach you how to love and how to live?
Winger!
Oh, so good.
So bad. Just historically echoing bad. This is a time, Lucy, you're smiling because you're being introduced to all of these feathered hair rockers from the 80s, but I would assume that you had wished you hadn't been introduced to any of them.
No, are you kidding? This rocks. We should do this on the show more. I love this. Let's play another one.
Yeah, do we have other ones? Because there's a big three in 90s compilation CD lore, especially when you start introducing the commercials to it. I'm not just, now that's what I call music. That's amateur shit. Okay, that doesn't count. Pure moods is what I'm talking about. A CD commercial that made you want to buy the CD.
Imagine a world where time drifts slowly. A world
is that a unicorn?
That is, of course. Dan, pretend like you don't remember the commercial for Pure Moods.
Experience Pure Moods, the perfect soundtrack for your way of life.
They had Tubular Bells on this one, which always scares me. Crockett's theme.
My partner here, Stugotz, knows me very well, and he knows when it is that I can get insecure on things. And during the last break, he just said to me, Dan, shake it off there. I know you've been reeling since putting Washington in the Marino Super Bowl. And
someone had to say it.
And I do that. I went to Mother's Day brunch with my mom, and so I'm talking to two 80-year-olds. And I'm talking to them about the 86 Mets, but they keep talking to me about the 1969 Mets because the 17 years have come together. And when you play these kinds of monster ballads here for me and take me back to the 80s and that time, you're bringing me back emotionally here to earlier in the show where I am indeed still reeling from putting John Riggins in the Marino Super Bowl.
Well, Dan, I've got one commercial that'll give you an anchor. That'll center you. I'm talking about living in the 90s.
Oh, boy.
Anything goes.
Oh.
I actually
I bought this.
I had a thought the other day when I'm listening to Sirius XM, and I was thinking something to myself because I wonder how often this happens. And on Sirius XM, they were saying, coming up at 9 p.m., which was like 6 or 7 hours later, coming up at 9 p.m., we will do the top 40 hits from this week in the 70s. And I thought to myself, how can you do that in the modern age where you're telling people at an appointed time to go listen to music 6 hours from now?
And expecting people to be there.
Like, how does that work as a menu option? Is there anybody who was listening to that at the time that I was listening to it that was saying to themselves, you know what? I want to hear the voice of the late Casey Kasem going through the top 40 in the 70s 6 hours from now.
I love Casey Kasem.
Yep.
We used to listen to him all the time. Wow. Threw me back. I love this video, though. This is really good stuff. They don't make them like this
Not sold
anymore.
in stores. You had to buy it off of that commercial.
Yeah.
You had Living in the 90s? I mean, where else could you get all
yes.
those singles? Right. A lot of one-hit wonders there. Before you would have to buy an entire album.
I think for the 80s, though, I think there's a captain of that team. And the captain is Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in terms of ballads, right?
There
was
always
was it Tonic Katane? That was the model that was in like all those videos.
Yeah.
Not surprising that you would find an ally in a Whitesnake.
Hey, you're back.
That's good joke writing. You're back. In the 1980s, if you had a convertible hood, she was on top of it.
Lucy, have you ever heard Casey Kasem angry? Have you ever heard the famous clip of Casey Kasem getting infuriated because his producers had asked him to tape something after a dog had died dedication and he couldn't get it right, so he flips out on the producer. The audio quality is not great, but let's see if we have that.
We're up to our long-distance dedication. And this one is about kids and pets and a situation that we can all understand, whether we have kids or pets or neither. It's from a man in Cincinnati, Ohio. And here's what he writes. Dear Casey, this may seem to be a strange dedication request, but I'm quite sincere, and it'll mean a lot if you play it. Recently, there was a death in our family. He was a little dog named Snuggles, but he was most certainly a part of... Let's start again. From coming out of the record. Play the record, okay? Please. See, when you come out of those up-tempo damn numbers, man, it's impossible to make those transitions, and then you got to go into somebody dying. You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for, but damn it, if we can't come out of a slow record, I don't understand it. Is Don on the phone? Okay, I want a damn concerted effort to come out of a record that isn't a up-tempo record every time I do a damn death dedication. Now, make it, and I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week. This is last damn time I want somebody to use his brain to not come out of a damn record that is that's up-tempo, and I got to talk about a dog dying.
I can't really imagine somebody who did the voice of Shaggy and Scooby-Doo talking like this.
Right. Sounds great, though. I mean, still. Yeah.
I'm on his side.
Yeah, same
I'm on his
here.
side.
Yep.
And hearing it again.
Shame on Don.
Yeah, someone's letting him down. And it's
Don.
probably that Don.
Don. Is Don on the phone? It was Don.
And he needs to see these pictures. You've very clearly been putting this off for weeks, Don.
Yeah, hurry it up.
That was really upsetting. Do you guys ever listen to Delilah? I don't know if she was local in my hometown or not, but she was lovely. She was always on the Christmas station, and then people would call in with her life problems, and it was always a goal of mine to have a problem big enough that I could call Delilah and get her take on it. But I was like 14, so I didn't really have those.
I got John Tesh doing that down here locally. Tesh was our guy.
It is strange. It's like hearing Garfield be enraged. It's like hearing a cartoon enraged. There are very few people whose voice is so soothing to me upon hearing it.
Vin Scully.
And yet I heard where it is that he got pissed off, and where he got pissed off is on the word Snuggles. There's a dead dog named Snuggles, and they made him come out of they made him come out of an up-tempo song, and he couldn't get the right energy and tone to give you his soothing cartoon voice. And next thing you know, he's lashing out at Don about the pictures, about all of his resentments at work, because Casey Kasem was carrying that shit for a long time, and he had a whole bunch of resentments underneath on he had to carry the show and didn't have enough teammates like Don doing what they were supposed to be doing.
Look at what a conversation that spawned out of, there needs to be a good photojournalism movie made. Look where it took us.
Casey Kasem, I'm surprised that Lucy has anything in the way of access to him because it's a million years ago.
Yeah, you don't remember the Miami Zombie, but you remember Casey Kasem.
I was not allowed to listen to music I wanted to growing up. My dad was very like, you're going to like what I like, and that is just the final say. So we listened to a lot of Casey Kasem. That's why I'm a Dead fan.
And clearly it's the reason that your dad didn't like Bruce Willis on the harmonica or didn't like Don Johnson in Heartbeats.
It was a Heartbeat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was a big moment in time because I would always, for whatever reason, whenever Casey Kasem was wrapping up his America's Top 40 countdown, I was always in the car with my dad when number one would be revealed. I don't know why, maybe it was church or something, but we would always be in the car together. And when Sheryl Crow overtook Boyz II Men for the number one spot, it was like my world ended.
That was a big weekend.
Yeah, 2 Americans.
Just a terrible week for me. I loved I'll Make Love to You.
Are you guys surprised that Udonis Haslem is good on First Take?
No.
Not at all.
I'm surprised UD's at ESPN.
I'm just surprised he's doing any of it, I guess. I shouldn't be surprised that he's good at it, but
Including his podcast.
I'm surprised that he's doing any of it. And he said the other day, in terms of getting geared up for the take, he's like, LeBron's not going anywhere. He's not leaving Los Angeles under any circumstances. Just said it flatly.
I'm interested to see how the Heat feel about it because he's technically an employee for them. Like Riley didn't love what he said about Tyler a few weeks ago.
You believe that? Yeah. No. UD showed up to TV with a mission in mind that day.
Riley
to
planted
make it
that.
ugly.
Yeah, Riley planted that.
2 weeks later, Tyler Hero's listing his house. That's how that one goes.
It did get listed at $13 million very quickly, the Tyler
so
Hero
cute.
mansion.
You think that UD was a rogue agent there.
Why would Riley – there's no reason – why does Riley have to come out and defend Tyler Hero?
Because
he could say nothing on it.
Because in this situation, he's good cop. This is all part of the plan, guys. Come on.
I believe Riley there.
Jeremy, why are you making faces?
I just have a lot of questions about who is supposed to be planting what stories where. Finally, a Heat voice, I guess, in national media on ESPN, but he's there to try to tear down a player whose value the Heat would want higher if they were trying to trade him. So I'm just sort of a little confused
You need
about
to make
the
it
thread.
ugly. You got UD to make it ugly. You ordered the code red.
Well, they always do have UD to make it ugly.
That's
is
not
true.
how you do First Take, though, if you're UD. Like, you have to have a take. I mean, you can't just be LeBron's going nowhere. Make something up.
I love that, though.
No, that is a good take, though.
Yeah, because this all came from, like, Rich Paul,
strong
right?
take. He's saying LeBron just declared for free agency. The Lakers seem to be doing everything in order to trying to get in a position to get him back. And Udonis is saying flatly, what do you mean? Come up with a better take than that one. What is your take?
He's going anywhere but L.A. That's the take.
A lie?
Well, yeah. I mean,
you are a white snake.
Something that's totally uninformed.
It's a guess.
It's not a power ballad.
It's a take. We should get Tony Katane to like crawl all over your desk.
Yes, we should do this, but instead of a power ballad love song, what Stugotz should do is a power hate song, a power hate ballad, where he's just an enormous hater.
Bill Walton joins us now on 790 The
Dan,
Ticket.
great to be with you today.
Likewise, Bill. Thank you for coming with the usual, the customary energy that you come with.
I'm fired up and ready to go. The NBA's 65th season is underway. It's going to be the best, the most successful, the most exciting, and the most profitable one in NBA history. We are planning on the miracle. We are seeking shelter from the storm. We are listening to Electric on the Eel as we approach the days between in the summertime here.
I'm pretty certain I've been to 2 or 3 Dead & Company shows with Bill, but Bill doesn't know he's been to 2 or 3 with me. It's unbelievable.
I know. I do know Stugotz. Yeah, because I'm the luckiest dude in the world, man. I found basketball when I was 8 years old, 3 years after I found my bike. And then, just 1 year later, I found Chick Hearn on the radio, and that changed everything for me. When I was 15, I found the Grateful Dead, Stugotz, UCLA, and John Wooden. Then when I was 17, I found the ultimate mentor, Ernie Vanderway. 28, Marty Glickman taught me how to speak. When I was 37, I found the woman of my dreams, Lori, the greatest everything ever. She's not a thing, but I can't think of a better word than everything. Things change along the way, as it often does with the Grateful Dead show. And man, the way they opened last night up at Burgestown in Pennsylvania, just west of Pittsburgh there. Wow, hell in a bucket into Alabama getaway. They were rocking last night. To be able to follow it all on nugs.net. And Stugotz, I hope to see you out there ASAP. I'm not sure what shows you're going to be able to get to, but look for me. I'm the tall guy with the big smile on his face. Hopefully Kevin will be able to continue to play well. You never know. It's a basketball game. It's the Dead Show. It's the Dan Le Batard Show. You never know what's going to happen. You never know when you're going to go. Nikola Jokic is like, well, one of the Florida Keys, or he's like the big river of water coming right down through Central Florida and ending up there in the Everglades and just making it all happen. But just watch out for all the alligators in there. Dan Le Batard Show. Stugotz. We'll see you on the
He is a spiritual gangster.
When you've been, Dan, where I've been, when you have a life that's not worth living because of the orthopedic spine issue that I've had over the last few years, and then you get better, and your life is never the same again, and everything is different, and what it teaches you is the ultimate lessons in life: perspective, relativity, tolerance, and patience. And as we are faced in a world that's racked by greed and selfishness, we have so many people who are trying to do so many good things.
Bill, we have to get you on again because I want to talk Grateful Dead with you.
Call anytime, Dan. I'm always ready. Let's go. And you tell LeBron to stand tall because that guy is fantastic. Don't let the little people bring him down because of their jealousy, because of their own problems out there. LeBron, that guy's phenomenal.
He's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
You're phenomenal.
Better than perfect.
You're better than perfect.
Incredible.
You're better than perfect.
Feed the children, World Hunger Relief. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bill Walton. I didn't even get to talk Grateful Dead with him.
We can't have him on enough.
That man is a prophet, a giant freckled prophet.
I will tell you, Stugotz, that over the last couple of years, it seems like this show has been bombarded by loss, people we care about, people that we have relationships with. And what I will say of Bill Walton that is different than I think about anybody in the history of our show, and I can't think of a lot of people walking the globe that I could say the following about. I associated Bill Walton always, from playing days on, with being in a great deal of pain, and his disposition never revealed it.
Right.
I don't know
It's
how.
amazing.
I don't know how he did that, because I think that we can get all caught up in our self-involvement, and there probably isn't a lot beyond pain that anyone listening to this is going to notice if they're in pain. It's a very personal, intensely personal thing that is a burden only you're carrying around, and his body didn't work right almost the entire time that he was a famous person. Being a 7-footer, this is a pretty long lifespan for a 7-footer because of the battering the body takes. But I really do associate this human being with always being in pain and always being somehow positive, someone who gave off a positive energy to anyone he came in contact with despite it.
Always smiling, always in a good mood despite the pain you're talking about.
He couldn't have actually always been in a good mood. Some of that had to be a mask for others. Like in
public, he was always in a good mood. He was always smiling. He always wanted to send a positive message. I got to spend a little time with him. Like over the last couple of years, I saw him in San Francisco less than a year ago. I watched a few Dead songs with him at one of the final Dead & Company shows, and I went to Shoreline with him and Luke Walton for a show. Like, I've had some good times with Bill Walton. Bill Walton, you would never know, Dan. I knew he was in pain, but you're right, because I just know his history of injury and being in pain. But you would never know it spending any sort of time with him. Like, he was always gracious.
It's hard to believe, honestly, because it's not just like, I'm sure many people in our audience are in some sort of daily pain. But this is a person that I associate every walking step that he took, because he had foot problems, because he had back problems. You can look up how many surgeries he had to have, but he had to have too many of them, because I just simply associate his entire playing career with overcoming pain. And when it's every walking step, Stugotz, I don't know how you keep a positive mood when you're waking up every morning and what greets you upon waking up is, my body doesn't feel good. I don't feel good in the case that I have to carry around all day.
Just to lend to what type of pain he was in, I asked him once, like, hey, Bill, sit down. Because if you go to a Dead show, you will see Bill Walton. He'll be, by the sound stage. He'll be standing up the entire time. He doesn't want to block anyone. He doesn't want to get in anyone's way. He's friends with the band. And I said to him once, like, hey, Bill, sit down. And he said, sitting down, standing up, too much pain.
Yeah, it hurts
too painful. I'd just rather stand.
38 surgeries.
Yeah.
My wife asked me who Bill Walton was because she says I see a bunch of stuff on social media, and I appreciated the opportunity to try to explain who Bill Walton was, because I don't have any memories of him playing basketball. I just remember him being around the game and being a wildly charismatic and popular dude that was in this. Look, people have a ton of strong opinions. Ask Reggie Miller. When it comes to basketball broadcasting, he was always atop everyone's list. They all loved him. He was just beloved by everyone around the sport. And it didn't play well to our montage, because that's notoriously quick hits here and there. But there was one time he joined our show. You asked him one question, and that was like premeditated.
There were 2 times.
We went into this interview trying to ask no more than one question.
Mm-hmm.
And at least once we got there.
I just said hello to Bill on Stupidity once, and he went for 35 minutes.
As great as his playing career was, I don't think it's what people will remember him for because of how long ago it was. I believe it's sort of his spiritual, aligned with the cosmos, sort of crazy broadcaster guy. I think he had a career that was more memorable as a personality than as a player.
We should remember the broadcasting part of it, because it was unique and it was different, especially this show, who strives to be a little bit different than the other shows. Bill Walton was different.
Oh, yeah. Throw it down, big man, is a signature call. I still say that in my home anytime a big guy doesn't want to throw it down. I say it in a Bill Walton voice. Throw it down, big man.
Do you know how hard it is for him to be beloved when play-by-play people didn't actually love how difficult he could make it, because he wasn't playing by the rules? He's not stopping talking when he's supposed to, or talking about any of the things he's supposed to talk about. He was just always being Bill Walton, and it was not confined to whatever it is your limits are.
The right play-by-play people did. It seems that Dave Pash, Jason Benetti, just a couple of different examples, and that was in baseball. Boog, where the right person who understood the light that Bill Walton could bring into someone's home through his broadcasting allowed him to function in that space in a way that made that impact so special on all of us.
It was funny to hear Dave Pash on SportsCenter yesterday talking about him, and he was talking about when he first started working with him. As much as you want to let him go, you got to rein him in. He said Mike Tirico called him early in his career, was like, I know you want to let him go, but you got to rein him in a little bit because he'll just go everywhere.
Well, I'll go a step further on this, and I know we get carried away with prisoner of the moment or whatever is the last thing is the best thing. But you do understand that no one's allowed to be that anymore, right? Like you're not. You
Correct,
can be
yes.
Charles Barkley on a studio show, but you're not allowed to be on the broadcast and not respect the broadcast. You're not allowed to be on the broadcast and not be partners with everyone around you and the sport and just do your own thing. There's not someone who's allowed to exist that way. I don't even know who you'd go with on second place. Someone who sits next to the play-by-play guy and is allowed to just be themselves, and it doesn't matter whether they're talking about the game or not. They're just being ambassador for entertaining and loves basketball, but doesn't necessarily need to be talking about basketball.
And I don't know how much of it was his own personal life and desire to keep a lighter schedule, but even he, in the later part of his career, was only allowed to be that on like Pac-12 Network Sicko Delight type games, which was always an appeal. Like, oh, this is a game that the most appealing thing about it is Bill Walton's on the call, and Pash is going to kind of let him go.
Didn't he die the day after the conference did? The last
yeah.
The day after the
Roxy Bernstein signed off on Pac-12 Network, and no one was really sad about it.
I was very sad about it. I don't know what you're talking about. He actually thanked Bill Walton in his sign-off, so it was like a sweet moment, but I was very sad. For me, at least, there was never really the appeal of watching Pac-12 basketball, except if I knew Bill Walton was on the call, and I would stay up every single time.
Is the Dick Vitale, Bill Walton stuff, is that something that ends with them? Like, is there going to be some young broadcaster who's allowed to do it that way?
In terms of color commentary, I don't really see it. Like, in terms of play-by-play, Harlan's got an aspect of that to him.
Oh, but play-by-play has too many confinements.
Yeah.
You can have personality, but there's a top end to it. I'm talking about the Dick Vitale, because Gus Johnson does that too, has personality, but Dick Vitale, Bill Walton, who else is somebody that you would associate with putting the color in colorful, putting the
Clyde.
Clyde's a good one.
Yeah, that's the only.
Yeah.
And he's from like a bygone era. Like now, you don't really see those characters. He's a holdover from this Walton era.
Maybe they'll let Jason Kelsey do it in the NFL because he seems to be the personality everybody loves right now.
Maybe, but Jason Kelsey's going to have to push the envelope and be a little more extreme than he is right now in order to reach those heights.